Hi everyone, I'm going to work through chapter 9 and there seems to be an issue with the way that my IT lab has these assignments defined. This one that's training is not the training through the book. I just discovered that really the chapter stuff is this one that says problem solve 2. So gosh, I hope that might be everybody's confusion. So I'm going to go ahead and download that, download the files and extract it, and extract all files. Then I'm going to open up the homework. So if we take a look at that, it is the Red Bluff Golf Course. So that's the right one. I apologize. Oh my gosh. So we have a JPEG file, a picture file, and then the database. So let's open up the database, start talking about stuff. So this is for the golf course, and the first thing that we're going to talk about is what does it mean to have something bound. And the term bound means that the item, whether it's a form or a report, that it is linked to an underlying data source, a table or a query, that it pulls up data from those sources. An unbound control is something that does not relate or link to an underlying data source in a table or a query. So we could have a bound form that is linked to an underlying table. We could have an unbound form, which would be just like maybe a dialog box or a menu, something that you're asking for input for the user, but it doesn't get stored in any table underneath the form, if you will. So we're going to start off with a bound form, and we're going to do it in the wizard, because the wizard does a lot for us. So I'm going to do create form wizard, and then we want to do always start off by picking our table or query, and we want the table member. And then we're just going to select all the fields. So it's going to take all of the fields in the order that they appear here and set it up as a column. So I'm going to do next column, and then we're going to change the name here to FRM add member. We're going to open the form in view, and there we go. So what you can see is that every one of these fields are from the underlying table. And one of the things that I want to point out is sometimes you wonder, why do we go through and make the caption? Do you see how this says last space name, first space name, member space ID? If we look at the table member in design view, okay, hold on. Close out of that. In design view, notice that the field names themselves are actually like kind of all smushed together, but when we're seeing it on the form, they're nicely spread out, and that's because we took the time in the table to do the caption. And what that means is that every time we add something built from that table, we don't have to go through and modify this label to have it look nicer. Okay, to have it be like here, member name. See how that's close together? So it's almost like we should come in here and on member name, put a caption, member space name, right? And that way, but see, it doesn't update. So I'm going to have to manually do that. Okay, so there's that. If we take a look at some of this, we probably have some things we want to change. So we're going to go to layout view. And so there's really like 3 views. There's form view, and that's the view where you enter and edit data. There's layout view, which is where we're in, and we see the little orange boxes around things that we select, the objects. And then there's design view. And design view is the actual design view. And we're going to get there, but right now we're going to look at it in layout view. So the member name field value, member name field value, okay, we want to change that up. It's like, see how big it is, so we want to change that. So we're going to line it up with address right here, and then we're going to bring this up so it's just as deep as it should be. Now, one of the things that I like to do is over here in design view, let me switch over to design view, because sometimes you can get yourself a little crazy with that. If I'm going to bring this back out a little bit, and just to make it a little bit bigger. So if I want this box to match the size of this box, you know, like the width and then the height, what I can do is click both of these. So I selected this object, I'm pressing my control and I'm clicking this. If I come up here to arrange, size, space, and I want to fit it to the narrowest because this one's narrower. So so this box then will become the same size as this one, narrow. Okay, so that takes care of the width of it, but now I want the height. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come up here and say to shortest, right? Because I want this box, which is deeper, to be the same size as this box. Okay, so cool. So now they're identical. They look exactly the same, right? So that can save you a lot of frustration in trying to size it to match. Okay. All of these over here on the right are bound controls. So these controls pull data up from the underlying source, right? And if I look at this, and if I look at the property sheet for the form, right here is my record source, table member. So this is linked to my table member. These items are bound to fields in that underlying table. These items are just labels. You know, they could say anything I want them to. Oh, I just keep moving those. So those are unbound objects. They're just text boxes. They're just labels, not text boxes. I said that incorrectly. I'm sorry. They're just labels. These are text boxes, which are bound controls. So it tells me. So if I click on, oops, I don't want to do a new one. If I click on this and I look at this, it is the control source right here is first name. So I know that that object is pulling up first name. So as I move through my records, that is going to change to reflect whatever's in the data file. This is just a label, right? Do you see that? It's just got a caption. It's not bound to anything underneath of it. All right, so that helps explain that, hopefully. So now let's take a look at, if we look at this city value. Okay, so we're looking at the bound control in the property sheet for city. We can go to data. You can also leave it on all. Sometimes if you're not sure exactly where that property is, you know, go to all and just, they're kind of grouped so you can see it. But we could go to data and then we don't have to look at so much, because what we want to do is the default value property, we want to make it Santa Fe, because let's say 90% of our members are from the city of Santa Fe. Instead of having to type it every time, we just automatically populate it in this form. The next thing I want to do for the state, since we're in Santa Fe, the default value there would be New Mexico, so NM. That way, when I put in a new, those two fields are going to be filled in. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick save so that these property changes that I made were saved. The next thing that I want to look at is using dates as default values. So there's a table on page 500 that talks about the date add function, and we did the date add function before when we were working with queries. So here it is again. And it shows you what you want, like the interval of what you want. So you do want it yearly, quarterly, by day, and then the character that you use to indicate that interval that you want. And then if you want to add or subtract to the number, then you put a positive or a negative, so a plus sign or a minus sign, right? So let's see, how much time do I have left? I think I can get through this before I max out on my 15 minutes for YouTube. All right, so in the okay. Okay, so what I'm working here is this date joined field. Okay, so in the property sheet, I want to get default value here, but I don't want, I don't have something that I want to put in. Rather, I want to build something. So I'm going to come over here to the ellipses, click on that. It's going to bring me my expression builder. So what I want is in the expression elements, okay, list, we want to find common expressions, things that are used often, and we want to pick current date. So I'm going to double click on current date. It puts it up here. So date, left parentheses, right parentheses. So that's a date and with a null value in there. So it's going to that's going to be the current date. And then what we want to do is we're going to just click OK. So that's going to pick the current date. Then we want to go to the renewal date, and the renewal date is going to be 1 year after they joined. So we're going to change that default value. We're going to go to the expression builder for it, and what we want to do here is in this part here, we're going to actually type equals date add. All right, and do you see it comes up? So instead of continuing to type, I could just hit the tab key. It's going to pop up my little what I need to provide. So here's that interval. So if you look at that table 1, what do we want? Well, we want the year. So we're going to do inside quotes Y, 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 Y. And then what we're adding to it, here's the number. So how many years, what are we adding to it? We're adding a 1 because we're going to add 1 year, comma, and then what are we adding, what are we adding the 1? Well, the field is called date joined, and as soon as I start bringing it up, you'll see it there. So I can just tab on it. It completes that, so you don't have to worry about typing it over, and I end my parentheses. So what this says is I'm going to add 1 year, because YYY means year. I'm going to add 1 to date joined and put it in that field. I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and I need to end this. And we'll pick it up in my next movie. All right, guys, thanks.